Today I want to talk about the meaning of the cross and its significance for my life and I think for everyone who's going to be watching this video. On Good Friday, Christians pause and remember the death of Jesus Christ. And in fact, the entire season of Lent is a prelude to this. It's a season in which we're pausing to think about what is the significance of Jesus' death for us? Why do we need it? It starts on Ash Wednesday when we remember the fact that we are sinners in need of grace and we're mortal and we're going to die. And those two things point us towards the cross and the resurrection of Jesus. We need to know that we're sinners so that we understand the need for grace, the need for the cross. We need to understand that we're mortal so we understand the need for the resurrection. And when we come to Good Friday and we think about the meaning of the cross, I think about what God is trying to say to us. It's not that Jesus had to die in order for God to forgive us. God can forgive us in any way God chooses. This was God's chosen way. This is the divine drama in which God is trying to communicate something to us. It's not juridical theory. It's not mathematics. It's not A minus B equals C. It's that God is trying to communicate to us in the most profound possible way. And that is God comes to us in human flesh. And when he walks in human flesh, what do human beings do? But choose to crucify him. They mock him, they torment him, they flog him, and then they hang him to a tree. And as Jesus is hanging on the cross, it's meant to be a mirror held up to our own souls so that when we look at Jesus, we recognize this is something that points to what's wrong in all of us. As human beings, there's a brokenness in us. There is sin in us. We have a tendency to do the things that are hurtful and hateful, and there's a need for redemption for us. We are in need of grace. And so the mirror is held up to us to see this is pointing to what's wrong in the human condition, but it's also pointing to God's grace. Jesus absorbs all the pain, all the hurt, all the sin that he can absorb. And God on the cross through Jesus Christ says, I love you so much. I'd suffer and die for you. Your sin brings pain in me and to me, but I'm willing to suffer and die in order to save you from yourselves and from your sin. And then Jesus in his death on the cross is meant to move our hearts to repentance. We're meant to look at the cross and recognize he did this for me. Christ suffered and died for me, and that's meant to change us from the inside out. And when I think of how that works, I'm reminded of a story that Richard Manning, we know him as Brennan Manning, wrote some years ago. He was describing his own experience of sacrificial love. And he was serving in the army. He was in North Korea. He was behind enemy lines. And he was serving with a friend of his, Ray Brennan was his name. And Ray and Richard were in the bunker. And this is how he describes what happened. He says, we were passing a chocolate bar back and forth. Ray took the last bite when a grenade lobbed by an undetected North Korean landed right in our bunker. And he says this, Ray was the first to spot it. Almost nonchalantly, he flipped the candy wrapper aside and he fell on the grenade. It detonated instantly. His stomach absorbed the explosion. It smothered it. And Richard Manning says, I was completely unharmed, untouched by the explosion. And then my friend Ray, he said, looked up at me. He winked. He rolled over and he died. And when Richard Manning came back from the war, he changed his first name to reflect the name of his friend who had died. He became not Richard Manning, but now Brennan Manning, so that every day he would remember that his life was lived because another man was willing to lay down his life, was willing to die so that he might have life. This is the impact I think the cross is meant to have on our lives. When we look at the cross, we're meant to see Jesus, who came to show us that we're broken and in need of saving, but who also came to show us the depth of God's grace and mercy and the price that was paid for us, so that when we look at the cross, we might live differently every day of our life, lived in grateful response to Christ's death for us on the cross. That's the meaning of the cross for me, and that's what I want to remember in the season of Lent, and particularly on Good Friday.